All right, welcome back to the GK Repair Talk podcast, episode 2. One thing that we didn't do in episode 1 was introduce ourselves. And for anyone who may stumble upon this in the future, why would we listen to these knuckleheads talk about repair? I'm John. I've been in tech pretty much my whole life. I built my first computer when I was 10 years old. When I was 18, I got a job at Best Buy. I was there for a bit, worked in Geek Squad for a little bit. I worked on cars for a little bit, for a year, and did repair there. I worked at Staples for several years in charge of Easy Tech. And for the past 4 years, I've worked for a company that repairs PCs and cell phones and tablets. I personally myself have, well over 10 years of repair experience, just with electronics, among other things. And so that's the background that I bring. I've been a technician. I've been in lower management, middle management, upper management. Recently got into ownership. So I bring a pretty vast perspective on the repair field. And the other guy is Brandon. Brandon, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Brandon. So I have 3+ years experience in repair. About 3 years in cell phone repair, and a little bit of experience also uh, in my younger years as doing appliance repair, delivering appliances, installation, that sort of thing. And if we're going way back, like you did, I've ripped apart some things as a kid. So,
That's
some
that's
gaming
where the passion
devices.
starts, right? Yeah,
You're right.
exactly. Yeah, that's
So
where the
yeah.
passion started. So, and the other thing that we should talk about is why we started this podcast. We started this because there's a lot of information out there for people who are looking to fix their own stuff. In a world right now where inflation is just crazy, but phones still break. What do you do? Do you go to Apple, or do you go to Asurion or whomever to get your iPhone or Samsung phone fixed, or whoever you got? Do you try to fix it yourself? Brandon and myself bring an interesting perspective. Being in the field and being technicians and working, in all sorts of weird ways for weird people, really. In the repair sect for cell phones and electronics in general, and we want to bring a hopefully non-biased information to help people make decisions, smart decisions, on what they want to do. And if you're looking for advice on repairing your own device, if you're looking to start your own company in the repair field, if you're looking to become a technician, if you're looking to break out into IT and you want to get into the IT field, we offer an interesting perspective on that, and we want to be as honest and as transparent as possible with people. This whole podcast is really just to give people information and help people. So that's the point and why we're doing this. Yeah, that's what I got.
So first question is, I think for this topic is, should you if you break your phone, should you repair it yourself? And I'm going to ask you that question, John. But first, I'm going to Google it. I Google it. Should I repair my own phone? Actually, what I wrote is, should I do a DIY phone repair? Google says no. If you damage it yourself, there's no warranty. So don't attempt to do your own DIY repair.
Don't do it.
That's what Google
says. Don't do it. Yeah, Google says don't do it.
Right. So what do you think, John?
Well, so today we're going to talk about specifically the aftermarket part world. Episode 1 we covered doing it yourself, but with OEM parts, and whether or not you should do the OEM programs. And we decided, no, you shouldn't. The aftermarket world is different. So, but circling back to your original question, should you fix your own phone? Um, yep, maybe. Maybe you should. We're gonna discuss more in detail whether or not you should or shouldn't. We're gonna give you some information, and then you should be able to answer that yourself for whomever is doing this. For me, as a technician, of course, I should fix my own phone. Um, and you know what? If you're listening to this podcast, you probably have at least a little bit of tech ability and a little bit of passion, and you could probably fix your own phone too. But we're going to talk about we're going to talk about some pitfalls, and we're going to talk about aftermarket parts. So and things that you need to watch out for, and then you can make your own decision. So, what other questions do you got for me, Brandon?
So at the aftermarket world, I guess. So we went into the OEM world, and you're right. It looks like we probably shouldn't use an OEM repair. All the programs we talked about last podcast. It's just not worth it using an OEM. It's going to cost you more. It's going to have too much risk. There's just not really any upside except for Alaska Man. So, so aftermarket is there some benefits to repairing your phone with an aftermarket part? Where can you get those parts? That would be the first question.
So there absolutely is a benefit to using aftermarket parts. So last podcast in episode 1, we talked about the OEM programs, and we came to the consensus that if you want to have an OEM replacement part put on your device, that's fine. But you're going to have to spend a lot of money to do that, and you save no money by doing it yourself. You could go to an authorized repair center, and this is pretty much true across the board. It doesn't really matter if it's an iPhone or a Samsung or a Google, Pixel phone. It's going to cost you less money in some cases to go to an authorized service center, have them do it, and oh, by the way, you get their warranty too. But in the aftermarket world, now you can save some money. And so it's easy to get aftermarket parts on most phones out there. This is pretty much anything that's 2 years and older. You can get aftermarket parts for at this point. And if not aftermarket, then original parts that are used you can also pick up. And so the two, probably best places, most common places that you can go to are eBay and Amazon. There's other random websites. eTech is another website that you can go to, and you can get parts through them. So you can get parts, and in a lot of cases, these parts come with a toolkit, specialized screwdrivers and whatnot that you may need to get into devices. So like Apple has weird screws for their devices that you need to get into their phones. So yeah, eBay, Amazon, and as far as cost savings, Brandon, you can help me out with this. So just to throw out a random phone, let's look at the XS Max.
Okay.
So if you have a XS Max and you want to repair it, you broke the screen, you want to repair it. If you were to take it to a repair center like Assurion or CPR, and Brandon, you probably could give me the pricing for both. How much would it cost to do a screen replacement on a XS Max?
So, yeah, it's a good question. So, you're looking for, if you buy an aftermarket, or if you're going for an aftermarket and you're going to get your phone repaired at a repair shop, one of the more popular ones, a XS Max, you're going to look at something at the very low end. If they're using a really poor quality part, you can get it as low You might be able to get it as low as 129 now. You can go all the way up to 249 for that repair, depending on the quality of that aftermarket part. So that's going to be what you're going to be paying for that Tennis Max.
Okay. So
Pretty wide range.
So a super low end part, and you're looking at about $130 for a high end part. That's 240. Is 240? Is that an OEM, or is that just high end aftermarket?
That's high end aftermarket.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then probably closer to $300 for OEM. Probably.
Yeah, I could pull it up. You're gonna definitely be paying more for an OEM part. Right. Closer to $400, over $400. Okay. You could be paying. I mean, you might be able to get a little less through Apple or something, but.
So even through Apple, you're not getting it because you got to rent the tools and all sorts of weirdness with Apple. So you're not really saving any money by doing by getting parts from Apple. You could just go to an Apple store or go to a place that does OEM parts like Asurion and get it done for closer to $400. All right, or you can get a quality aftermarket part for $200 some dollars and have them install it. You can go super cheap, $130 for someone else to install it. And this is, Asurion, CPR. These are fairly reputable places that you can go to. I'm looking on Amazon right now, and you can get parts as cheap as $50. Is what I'm seeing.
Right.
Now, we are going to get into part quality. That is, so $50 gets you an LCD screen, not an OLED screen.
That's important.
That's important to know. The Tennis Max OEM screen is OLED. So if you want to go with a aftermarket OLED, you absolutely can, and it's going to cost you a little bit more than an LCD will. So an LCD, I'm looking $50, $51, $48. OLEDs are in the $63 on the low end, $63 to $80. So if you want to go OLED, what's the cost for an OLED at CPR or at Asurion?
For repair there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for an OLED, you're gonna be looking at somewhere around 240 on the top end, and as low as 180 for that repair.
180 versus just buying the part and doing it yourself at $80 or a little bit less than that. So you're saving at least $100 by doing it yourself.
Now the CPR, I don't know, that 180 might be a, I don't know for sure if they could be using an LCD there.
Okay. So important questions for someone who's listening to this and they're deciding whether or not they want to try to do the repair themselves, or should they go to Apple, or should they go to the repair shop down the road. It's important to ask questions like, what quality aftermarket part do you use?
Is there a warranty?
And what is your warranty exactly? And we'll go over the quality differences between some of these parts, because in the aftermarket world, just by Amazon, there's a $30 difference between low-end Tennis Max screens versus the higher-end Tennis Max screens, right? So what's the difference? Well, the technology difference is a big difference, right? LCD versus OLED. Both screens are gonna work, hopefully, but there's certainly a massive quality difference between the two. You could go to eBay. eBay, generally you can get kits for a little bit cheaper. The other thing with going with eBay or Amazon too, like almost all of the parts that I'm seeing on Amazon right now come with the screen assembly. They also come with, most of them are coming with adhesive. to get that screen glued back in place. They come with some tools, some pry tools. Comes with the screwdrivers that you need to do the repair. You need 3 different types of screwdrivers to do these repairs, or bits. 3 different bits to do these repairs. So, there are some risks with doing aftermarket. We'll go over that when we talk about some pitfalls. None of these screens that look like come with new sensors pre-installed, and that makes sense because they wouldn't work anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of these screens does not come with the frame that I'm looking at right here. The LCD itself, it does not come with the frame, so you would have that throws a whole different monkey wrench into that repair.
Yeah, might be.
If you have if you have to remove the metal frame off of the original screen and try to like readhere that,
might be much for a DIY.
Well, right. So I'm looking at this. We're going to talk about people who want to do this as a business, maybe a side hustle, or they want to start their own business by doing screen repair. Pricing, wholesale pricing for parts, are, if you start up your business and do wholesale, you can get these parts for even cheaper than what you're paying for, right?
And with some warranty.
With a warranty, right? Exactly. What's the next question?
So you've already kind of gotten to quality. I do think there's probably more to, more questions around that. I think it's an important thing to talk about is what's the quality differences. But
okay.
And we'll probably go circle around to that quite a bit. But next, I kind of wonder about potential pitfalls of doing the repair yourself. What are some things that can go wrong, and why should you maybe not do that?
Okay, so I'll try to answer both of those questions. So I'll start with the iPhone world, and then I'll talk about the Samsung and Samsung. Well, I'll just call it Android world because a lot of the phones are designed pretty similarly. So an iPhone, when you're getting aftermarket parts, there's basically 3 different types of parts that you can get as far as technology quality. So for iPhones, the original iPhone, all the way up into the iPhone 8 Plus, they're all LCD technology. The 10 is when OLED came out. Now, Apple in their lineup had 2 different options for a couple of years. So the iPhone 10 was OLED, and the next generation was the 10s series. So the 10s and the 10s Max are also OLED. The 10R is LCD. The next generation after that with the 11s, the iPhone 11 is an LCD screen. But the Pro series, the 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max, are OLEDs. Apple didn't switch exclusively to OLED until the 12. So 12 and newer are all going to be OLED technology. But in the aftermarket world, you can get LCD screens on your iPhone that originally came with an OLED panel on it. And so OLED technology is the newer technology. It allows for better resolutions, much better color contrast, blah blah blah. You can do the research on LCD versus OLED. But if you're looking to fix your 10s Max, for example, and you want to do it as cheaply as possible, you don't need to put an OLED screen on it. At $80 for that part, you can put a $48 part on that, and guess what? It's going to work, and it's going to work. Usually as good as an OEM screen functionally. It just isn't going to look as good. So when you're watching movies, if you're looking at photos, the colors aren't going to be as good. The resolution might look a little bit weirder.
I've seen
So,
some. You can look up some pictures of that. It's interesting to look at the comparison pictures
uh,
of those. It's pretty easy to Google.
yeah,
So
yeah. So, but going beyond just OLED versus LCD, in the aftermarket world, there's two different kinds of OLED screens that you can buy. There's what's called a hard OLED and a soft OLED. And the difference between the two has to do with the layers and how they're assembled with the layers. I'm not going to go into detail on that because my knowledge of it is honestly fuzzy. I can tell you that there is a quality difference as far as how brittle the screen is going to be. So the hard OLED is cheaper to buy, but it is not durable. Those are the ones that we've had complaints in the past where someone will come into our shop with a broken 10s Max. We'll do a replacement on it, and it'll be a hard OLED panel that we put on it. They get a case, they get the new tempered glass screen protector thrown on there because they want to protect their phone. They don't want to have to come back to us and spend another $180 if they break the phone again, or $220 or whatever the OLED price is at that time. But they'll drop their phone again, and the screen or the LCD underneath the screen protector broke, but the screen protector itself didn't break, right? So that's another complaint on Pixel devices too. But so it's they're cheaper. They obviously look better than LCD would as far as like colors and whatnot, right? They're going to look like an OEM or really close to an OEM, but they're not going to be as durable, and that's a design flaw. And the fix for that flaw was the soft OLED. So the soft OLED is more expensive, but it's going to be durable. Um, so if you're looking to fix the phone yourself, right, you're not going to offer your own warranty. So you may want to spend the extra couple bucks to get the soft OLED. If you're looking to have someone else fix your device, it's important to ask about warranties, because if you go into like an Assurion and they have like a good, better, best option for the 10s Max, right? Good being LCD, better being a hard OLED, best being soft OLED. You want to know what their warranty is going to be on something like that, because if you choose to go with the mid-range option and you're going to go with a hard OLED, just know that it could very well break. And so you know of course that's usually it's if it breaks, the warranty is going to cover it if it breaks without actual physical damage to it, typically, which may be the case on some of these ones. That was a massive complaint, company wide with us. People coming back and the LCD just stopped working, or the screen itself, the OLED panel stopped working itself, even though there's no crack on it. It just stopped working. So most places are going to offer decent warranties, but it's a good question to ask for sure.
yeah,
And then, in addition to that too, so that's just quality as far as the technology differences. But there's also quality differences with the brands of screens that you can buy too. Um, so Brandon and I were talking about the AQ7 screen, which is going to mean nothing to really anyone unless you're actually in the same industry as us. But like an AQ7 versus like an XO7 screen, there's massive quality differences between the two of them. And yeah, there's a price difference between the two. There's quality differences in how assembled the screen assembly is when you get it. So like when I was looking on Amazon on Amazon with iPhone. Some of them is a full screen assembly that comes with the metal frame that sits inside of the main metal frame of the phone. Some of them don't come with that, which means you're having to readhere, panels together, and that's just a nightmare. And it's the same type of thing with Samsungs. Um, when I was looking on iFixit, for episode 1, I was looking at some Samsung screens, and I think I was looking at an S9 or an S10. When I think of a Samsung screen replacement, it's an Octa kit, which is I can't remember what the Octa the acronym for that is it the on cell something. So anyway, but the Octa kit is a screen. It's a screen assembly, but it comes with the front glass. It comes with the LCD. It comes with a full frame, phone frame. Comes with the battery too. It comes with like the power button and the volume buttons pre-installed. Some of them come with the vibrate motor pre-installed. Um, but on the iFixit, it's just the glass and the LCD that you get, which means you have to basically heat up the device and you have to separate the broken screen from the frame and then readhere this new glass digitizer LCD to the frame. Um, and it's almost like an active refurbishing versus just replacing the screen. And that process can be a nightmare because I could tell you horror stories about S7s because that's how you fixed an S7 was peeling off the glass digitizer and LCD off of the mainframe itself, and then re-adhering the new one, and that's just it's just a nightmare. And so when you're shopping around for, if you got Samsung, if you have an LG, um, when you're shopping around for aftermarket parts, and you see it's $30 for an LCD, a replacement LCD, or for $35 you can get an LCD, but it comes with the frame. Get the frame; it's worth the extra $5. Um,
So, so what I'm hearing is, depending on what repair you're doing, there are definitely some pitfalls you can run into if you're
sure.
uneducated, and
Yep.
so you could really save some money, but there are some pitfalls, and I would definitely worth exploring. It kind of seems like it would be nice to have a good place to have this kind of have someone to go to. I don't think any of the shops are going to share this with you. I know that it, it it's probably unlikely a shop is going to share this kind of information with you. So,
Certainly, well, certainly not. Yeah, a shop is going to tell you you shouldn't do it. You should let us do it because we're experienced, right?
right, and they're not totally wrong, I
Because
suppose.
they right, and they want to get the sale, right?
Right.
So there are a lot, but as as a technician myself, as you're can speak as a technician too. Not every repair on every phone is the same, right? you know I could tell you for sure, if you got a Pixel 5a and you want to replace the screen on that, go ahead. That's not a difficult repair at all.
Right.
If you have a Pixel 4 XL and you want to replace the screen on it, buy a different phone.
Yeah. Well, that's another conversation. Let's not go down that road. That's another conversation.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
there's some phones not worth repairing.
Yeah, they're
So,
yeah. If you're right, an S7 right now, an S7 is way beyond its expiration date. Do not
right.
fix an S7 unless you got data that you're looking to recover on some of these devices. It's not worth it.
Some
It's
crypto.
it's really yeah. So it's really important to do. Don't take my word for it or Brandon's word for it. Do more research on YouTube to see what some of these repairs look like. Go to iFixit and see what the repair guides say there. There
However, I
not
bet
every
if you get a comment section, you're probably the person to go to. I think John will answer honestly if you've got some questions. If we have some contacts, I bet that would be a good resource. So
Mhm. Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave comments. I'll do my best to reply. But yeah, we'll be completely honest, and if you want to know the pitfalls on a very specific repair, we can tell you the pitfalls on the very specific repair. On the iPhone XS Max, after pitfalls on those aftermarket, is that the screen assemblies have sensors that have to be transferred from the original assembly to the new assembly. And
They're
if you
small and
break the
fragile.
sense, they're small, they're fragile. There's a very specific way that you should remove them. And if you break it, guess what? Your Face ID is lost forever. So, for the Android side of the world too, you know, if you're buying LCDs without frames, you're in for a very long repair process typically. um, Especially on like a Samsung or something like that. If you can get a frame, especially frames that come with the flexes for the volume and power, that's going to save you time. Not
Yeah,
that it's super hard to transfer those components, but it'll certainly save you time. And time is money. So if you have the option to get the frames on Android ones, get the frames.
definitely.
As you're shopping around, absolutely read the reviews. Right, those will give you a lot of good information too. Some people are idiots, and you'll read a review and be like, "Wow, this guy was an idiot." He needed a. He'll be complaining that he couldn't get a screw out of the bottom of an iPhone, and think it was an Allen key, but it's definitely not. And but you'll get some other ones that are just like, that'll let you know that you have to replace the vibrate motor. Don't be an idiot like me and forget to swap out the vibrate motor on your Samsung device or whatever. They'll give you good information. The other pitfalls too is on things like Samsung, if you're going aftermarket, or if you're going OEM pull, um, it's not just transferring components. It's transferring components into the new frame, but be careful with the battery. You don't want to fold the battery in half, getting it out of the old frame. And there's things, quick tips, things like don't use metal tools to pry up on the battery. Isopropyl alcohol in a suction cup is the way that you want to go typically. Yeah. We're already over 32 minutes here. Are there some other questions that you wanted to ask, Brandon?
So there is a couple other questions, and you're right about the time. You can go into so many details. I would say it is I don't know if we went over all this, but to sum it up, an Android, the biggest risk of breaking is going to be the back. You're going to break that back glass. Well, it's probably a pretty common risk there. On a battery repair, like let's say an iPhone battery repair, that screen, you could break that screen, and then you're out of screen and a battery. And then on iPhone screen repair, probably the Face ID module or an older device would be the home button. Those are some of the common risks.
Yeah. To go along with it, to go along with that, I would say that if your phone is older than 2 years old or 3 years old, you should replace the battery while you're doing these repairs. If you're choosing to do a screen replacement,
yeah, the batteries aren't very expensive, and you already got it open.
Yeah, typically batteries aren't very expensive, and if it's at 2 to 3 or older than that, then it's at the end of its shelf life. Batteries degrade over time. So it's probably due for a new battery at the 2-year mark. So if you're Alaska guy right now, and you're trying to fix your XS Max, which is I think a 4-year-old phone at this point, get a battery while you're getting your OEM screen and renting the $50 kit from Apple. But yeah, it's a good idea. For the extra $5 to $12, to replace the battery. If you replace, typically, a new screen plus a new battery, you got yourself basically a brand new phone at that point, right? So, except you don't have to reset it up, hopefully. So, um, yeah. Anyway, pro tip: get a
So
battery
no,
too.
the next question would be, we kind of touched on this, but let's go talk really quickly. What are some tools that you want in some of these repairs?
Okay. So a, a lot of these kits that I see online come with some tools um, that you need. So like the Tennis Max screen, I keep going back to it, but it's the one I looked up. It came with a toolkit that has all 3 screwdrivers that you would need to open up an iPhone, in addition to some pry tools, little pick things to help loosen up that screen, and pry it up and out of the frame. Um, so you're absolutely welcome to use those kits. My experience with them has been that the tools just aren't good. Generally, they're good enough to get the job done, so you don't necessarily have to spend extra money. But as you're looking up how to do these repairs, some things that you might want to have around to help. If you have a heat gun or can get a heat gun, or you have a badass hair dryer, um, you know, the enemy of adhesive is heat,
Mm-hmm.
and these devices now, most smartphones nowadays are going to have some sort of water resistance rating. To get that water resistance rating, you need industrial strength adhesive to you know bond the screen and the glass to the metal frames. So whether you're doing an iPhone, whether you're doing a Samsung, and you have to get the back glass off, same thing. You're going to want to add some heat. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos where people are going in and they're using like razor blades to cut the adhesive. Um, I would say for a technician that's trained that way, you could probably do it. You just have to know that you have to be extremely precise. There's not a lot of room for error. Going around the edge of an iPhone or a Samsung, with a razor blade. Um, Especially if you're doing like an iPad. If you're going around an iPad with a razor blade and you slice through the digitizer flex cable, you,
The
you may have
antennas.
just locked your right. You could slice the antennas, but I think it's the LCD. It's either the LCD or the digitizer. I think it's the LCD. The LCD flex cable. If the iPad is on and you slice through that, when you go to replace the part and you put the new parts on and you turn the thing on, it'll actually give you it'll say that the thing has been locked out for like 22,000 minutes or something like that. it's it's ridiculous. Like you just bricked the iPad. But iPhones are assembled in similar ways, right? So you could end up slicing through components or cables. If you're using the razor blade method, you shouldn't use the razor blade method. You should use heat. Um, some a hair dryer, heat pad. If you're looking to do this as a side gig or to do it professionally, get yourself a heat pad or a hot plate, as some places call them. They're just little, like they look like little rubber pads that you can set temperatures to, and you can heat them up to like 99 degrees Celsius. They get pretty hot, but you loosen up the adhesive, and then you can use a pry tool to pry up that screen a lot easier and with a lot more error, room for error with that route. Um, so then beyond that too, there's all sorts of repair kits that you can get online. Cheap ones cost around $10. You can go and get an iFixit kit. Those ones range from $15 on up. I personally have an iFixit kit. I think they're great. If you're looking to do this professionally, I would say get yourself an iFixit kit.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like some technicians and you don't like to swap out bits, so the iFixit kits, it's one driver with several bits that you get. If you don't like to swap out bits because it takes time to do that, there's a brand called Weehaw that I like,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get just individual screwdrivers with the right ends, so you can get the T6s or T5s or T4s plus your pentalobes plus your tri wings, your 000 Phillips. You can get all that through Weehaw, and the Weehaw ones. Why I like them is they tend to last a long time. There's other tools that you can invest in. The Thors or iThors, I think is what they're called. It's one. They feel really good in the hand, but the ends are a little bit brittle, so you end up replacing them quite often. So that's my recommendation on tools. Got any other follow-up questions or anything you want to add to that?
Probably good to add 99% alcohol is a good thing to have.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot that.
Yeah.
Isopropyl alcohol. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Don't
definitely
use water
something.
as
Yes. So yeah, water is not a good liquid to use around devices or to use. Yeah. So that's a great tip. If you're doing an iPhone or any of them where you're having to replace adhesive, and you're looking to clean up the frame to put the new adhesive on, which is a good idea to do. Um, if you're needing to do a little bit of cleanup, isopropyl alcohol is not going to damage. Um, It's not going to damage your devices. It evaporates too quickly to do damage. Water's going to damage it. So, but even then, if you use 85% isopropyl alcohol, that's 15% what? Probably water. So, so definitely the 99% stuff is the safest stuff that you can use, and it's great for cleaning up stuff too. We've used Goof Off too to do some cleanup. Um, that's really one that we've used on iPads to clean up iPad frames, because the adhesive on those can be pretty intense. But yeah, definitely isopropyl alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol and heat are the 1-2 punch to adhesive. So if you're having problems getting a back glass or a screen assembly off because of that adhesive, isopropyl alcohol and heat is what's going to take care of that.
So yeah, I think that sums up a lot of it. We've gone through. So I think in summary, very good idea to look into a DIY repair for most phones. You can save a lot of money this way. There are pitfalls. Not a bad idea to do research. Should do that. If you could find someone, John would be a good resource. If you can find someone to guide you through it, answer some questions, that's a good idea. So you're not making silly mistakes. One of the most common ones I've seen is just using the wrong bit when you're taking a Phillips to one of those specialized iPhone screw holes. So yeah, I think
I would
that's
say
something.
that and screw management.
Yeah, that's true too.
We didn't cover that under tools.
Different size of
But
screws. Yeah,
people get lost easily in an
true.
iPhone.
Yeah,
Because not only is it like a different type of screw, right? Tri-wing versus
different sizes
a Phillips,
as well.
they're different lengths, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, to get one plate off of, you'll have a plate that covers, a couple of different flexes that you need to get off, and it's 3 or 4 screws, and they're all different lengths. And if you put in the wrong length screw and put that in, you could brick a phone doing that. It'll screw right into the main board, and there you go, replacement phone time. So Pro tip: screw management.
So yeah, I mean,
But
what maybe another maybe so that sums up this one. I think we've kind of got an idea to answer that question. Should you repair your phone with an aftermarket part? I think probably so if you do some research. Uh, I would say there's probably a follow up if we wanted to with this podcast on some of the more specific pitfalls, some of the also some pro tips on repairs. That might be a good one to do.
mm-hmm.
Some pro tips for
No,
later.
we should pick yeah, probably like a specific device or device type maybe to go over, like specifically talk iPhones and pitfalls, specifically talk Samsung and pitfalls. I would, if this channel could blow up into anything, I would love to do the podcast in addition to probably repair videos.
Yeah,
And so you can get a repair video from someone who's actually, repaired thousands of these devices
true.
before.
Yeah,
uh,
and at very least we can point you in the right direction. I would love it if we could at least just kind of give people an idea, where they should go. So yeah,
mhm.
um, I think that about sums it up. Don't you think? Good for this
I think so.
podcast. Hey, thanks for watching. This has been a lot of fun for us. I hope it was fun for you guys. Definitely, like I said before, any comments you guys have, questions, drop that on if you're on YouTube watching. Put that in the comments, and we'd love to talk with you guys.
Yep. Thanks for listening.